There was an election. There's a couple of congressional districts in Iowa, and one of them went on for some time, and the state had a commission that looked into it, and back and forth the counts went, and eventually a Republican won by like 7 votes. But she won. And that was the decision of the state and of this commission that looked at all of the ballots and all the voting on the ground. Nancy Pelosi says that we in Congress have the final say on who's seated. She's a congresswoman right now, this individual. And they want to remove her and put the Democrat in. But count every vote, ladies and gentlemen. Count every vote. They believe in democracy, not Jim Crow. No, that's the Republicans. Watch this. Go.
What do you got, Chad?
Good morning. Thank you so much. So yesterday, the House Administration Committee voted to continue its inquiry into the Iowa 2nd Congressional District here. Could you see a scenario, depending on what they find in their probe, of unseating the current member and seating Rita Hart if it came to that?
You know, Chad is always the hypothetical. Could you see a scenario?
You see, ladies and gentlemen, the media never criticized Pelosi for her comic book character behavior. Chad is always the hypothetical. Chad Burnham, who's with Fox, this isn't hypothetical. This is what they're trying to do, and that's what he's trying to get at. Go ahead.
We don't do press conferences on Can You See a Scenario? Of course.
That would be a pretty bold move to do that.
Well, I respect the work of the committee. I did see, as you saw in the press, what they decided to, and they were following as I read it, the requirements of the law as to how you go forward.
She says, as you saw in the press, she is directing this. She's telling them you unseat this Republican and you get the Democrat in there. The question that's being asked is right on. He's nailing it. It's not a hypothetical. And this committee of Democrats, majority, has now said they're going to look into this situation, make a decision. And what's happened is the Democrat who lost, her lawyers have gone to Congress and said, you need to overthrow this because there were 22 or 24 votes that should have been counted that this commission wouldn't count. In other words, trying to create a fiction to allow that congressional committee to overturn the election, remove the sitting congresswoman, who's a Republican, and replace her with a Democrat. Count every vote, you see. Jim Crow, you see. Go ahead.
It's not enough to win an election by 6 votes. Then why is it enough to have 6 votes of Democrats on a commission to overturn an election? So Iowa law is what determines what our election process is, how the ballots are included, and all of that was done. What my opponent wants to do is to violate Iowa law, to go against Iowa law and go against the representation of the voters of Iowa and disenfranchise 400,000 voters in Iowa because she didn't get the results she wanted. And she said that in a video. She said that she skipped over the Iowa courts and had to go to the House Committee on Administration to get the results we need. Not the results of the voters, not the results of the election law in Iowa, but to have Congress decide who gets to represent Iowa's 2nd Congressional District. Everybody across the country should be outraged by this.
We saw in New York they tried to steal a race, you remember? In a rural area of New York, where the Republican had been in the lead almost the entire time, and they kept finding ballots. And ballots and ballots and ballots, and it went on for a month, 6 weeks. And finally, the judge there said, a Democrat, okay, that's enough. We can't, there's nothing else we can do. Basically he's saying we've counted every damn thing we can, and there's just not enough in the top drawer to overturn this thing. And she won. It was close. We have close elections in this country. Now you know why they don't want any security and integrity measures when it comes to voting. Republicans just don't do this sort of thing. Maybe there's a rare instance, but it's clearly the exception to the rule. The Democrats are very good at this. They have state procedures, federal procedures. They have people who power at any cost. The ends justify the means. You couldn't get McCarthy or McConnell to do something like this if their lives depended on it. They don't care. Nancy Pelosi is out of her mind, insane. And the rest of them follow along. There's not a moderate among them. Those of you who live in districts where they claim to be moderate members of the House, they voted for her to be their leader. They voted again for Trump's impeachment. They voted for that $2 trillion slush fund that they tried to tie to the virus. They voted for H.R. 1, which I was describing earlier, and I've described on other shows, which will destroy your vote. There are no moderates left in the Democrat Party, so stop being fooled by them, or tell your family members and friends, stop voting for these frauds who come back to the district. They join some goofball committee they create saying bipartisanship for progress. They're not into bipartisanship. They're all hacks.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.